Delano was a lawyer, rancher, banker, statesman and a member of the prominent Delano family. Delano was elected U.S. Congressman from Ohio, serving 2 full terms and 1 partial one 1845 to 1847, 1865 to 1867, and 1868 to 1869. Prior to the American Civil War, Delano was a national Republican and then a Whig. As a Whig, he was identified with the faction of the party that opposed the spread of slavery into the Western territories, and he became a Republican when the party was founded as the major anti-slavery party after the demise of the Whigs in the 1850s. During Reconstruction, Delano advocated federal protection of African Americans' civil rights, and argued that the former Confederate states should be administered by the federal government, but were not part of the United States until they met the requirements for readmission to the Union. Delano served as President Ulysses S. Grant's Secretary of the Interior during a time of rapid westward expansionism, and contended with conflicts between Native American tribes and white settlers. He was instrumental in the establishment of America's first national park, supervising the first U.S. federally funded exploratory scientific expedition into Yellowstone in 1871, and becoming America's first national park overseer in 1872. In 1874, Delano requested that Congress protect Yellowstone through creation of a federally funded administrative agency, the first Secretary of the Interior to request such preservation of a nationally important site. Believing that tribal communalism and a nomadic lifestyle led to Indian wars and impoverishment, Delano argued the best Indian policy was to allot Native American tribes small reservations in the Indian Territory. In Delano's view, the reservation system humanely protected Native Americans from the encroachment of Western settlers, and would aid in Indian assimilation into white culture and independence from federal funding. To compel the Native Americans of the West to move to reservations, Delano supported the slaughter to near extinction of the vast buffalo herds, which were essential to the maintenance of the Plains Indians' lifestyle. In the area of government reform, Delano opposed Grant's 1872 executive order to implement the recommendations of the First Civil Service Commission. Profiteering and corruption permeated the Interior Department during his tenure, and Grant requested Delano's resignation in 1875. He left office with damage to his reputation for personal honesty. Delano returned to Ohio to practice law, tend to his business interests, and raise livestock. He did not return to politics, and died in 1896. Historians are critical of Delano's tenure at the Interior Department, arguing that he could have done more to stop corruption, protect bison, and prevent the destruction of the culture of the Plains Indians. Early life, education, and political career. Delano was born in Shoreham, Vermont on June 5, 1809, the son of James Delano and Lucinda Bateman. The Delano family was of French ancestry. Its first representative in America, Philip Delano, voyaged from Holland in 1621 on the Fortune, the sister ship of the Mayflower. In 1815, Delano's father died, and his family was put under the care of his uncle Luther Bateman. In 1817, the family moved to Mount Vernon in Knox County, Ohio, where Delano resided for the rest of his life. Delano was raised primarily by Luther Bateman, and after an elementary education he labored in a woolen mill and at other jobs, becoming largely self-sufficient while still a teenager. After beginning self-directed legal studies, Delano formally trained with Mount Vernon attorney Hosmer Curtis from 1830 to 1831, and attained admission to the bar in 1831. Delano became active politics as a national Republican, and later as a Whig, and in 1834 he won election as prosecuting attorney for Knox County. He won re-election in 1836 and served 2 terms, 1835 to 1839. Marriage and family. On July 14, 1834, Delano married Elizabeth Leavenworth of Mount Vernon, the daughter of M. Martin Leavenworth and Clara Sherman Leavenworth. They were the parents of one child who lived to adulthood, Elizabeth, who was the wife of Reverend John G. Ames of Washington, D.C. Delano and Ulysses S. Grant were distant cousins. They had great-great-grandparents in common. United States Representative. In 1844, Delano was elected to the United States House of Representatives after appearing on the ballot as a replacement for Samuel White, Jr., who had died after winning the Whig nomination. He went on to defeat Democrat Caleb J. McNulty by only 12 votes, 9,297 to 9,285. Delano served in the 29th Congress, and was a member of the Committee on Invalid Pensions. He also gave a speech denouncing the Mexican-American War, which earned him national recognition as an opponent of the conflict. Delano did not run for re-election in 1846, instead campaigning for the 1848 Whig nomination for governor of Ohio. He lost to Seabury Ford by 2 votes at the January 1848 party convention. Ford went on to defeat Democrat John B. Weller in a close general election, and served 1 term. Delano subsequently became involved in several business ventures. In 1850 he set up a successful Wall Street banking partnership, Delano, Dunleavy, and Amp Company, which specialized in railroad bonds. It included a branch office in Cincinnati and operated for 5 years. In addition, Delano became a successful sheep rancher, and served as president of the National Association of Wool Growers and the Ohio Wool Growers Association. He was also active in other businesses. He was president of the Springfield, Mount Vernon and Amp Pittsburgh Railroad, and an original incorporator of the First National Bank of Mount Vernon, of which he later became president. Joined Republican Party. With the demise of the Whigs, Columbus Delano joined the new Republican Party. He was a delegate to the Republican National Convention in 1860, and supported Abraham Lincoln's nomination for president. The following year he served as Commissary General on the staff of Governor William Dennison, Jr., and aided in raising and equipping troops for the Union Army at the start of the American Civil War. In 1862 Delano was a candidate for the United States Senate seat held by Benjamin Wade. With Republicans in control of the Ohio General Assembly, winning the nomination was tantamount to election by the full legislature. Delano was nearly successful, losing the nomination to Wade by only 2 votes. In 1863, Delano served in the Ohio House of Representatives, and played a notable role in shepherding to passage legislation in support of the Union war effort. Return to Congress. Delano was again elected to the U.S. House in 1864, and he served in the 39th Congress. During this term, Delano was chairman of the House Committee on Claims. Delano appeared to lose his bid for re-election in 1866, but successfully contested the election of George W. Morgan. After unseating Morgan, Delano served for the remainder of the 40th Congress, June 3, 1868, March 3, 1869. After the Civil War, Delano supported radical Reconstruction, believing that the South was in chaos and that federal involvement in the Southern states, including the Army, was necessary to keep peace. He did not run for re-election in 1868. Reconstruction speech. In September 1867, Delano made a speech on Reconstruction in Eaton, Ohio, in which he said that President Andrew Johnson did not have constitutional authority to establish civil government in the former Confederate states. Delano argued that Congress, not the President, was required to establish civil governments in all the states. Quote, in Delano's view, Johnson and Southern Democrats, who had previously supported the Confederacy, were conspiring to overthrow Congress by undermining its authority to make laws concerning Southern Reconstruction. As proof, Delano cited Johnson's September 1866 swing around the circle speech, in which Johnson said the national legislature was a pretended Congress. In addition, Delano believed Johnson was conspiring to remove Ulysses S. Grant as head of the Army because of Grant's support for congressional reconstruction. As a result, Delano advocated impeaching Johnson and removing him from office, and argued that Grant should be protected by Congress from any attempt by Johnson to remove him. Commissioner of Internal Revenue, Delano remained active in politics and supported Grant for president in 1868. When Grant became president in March 1869, he appointed Delano Commissioner of Internal Revenue. Delano served from March 11, 1869 to October 31, 1870. As commissioner, Delano tried with mixed success to collect federal revenue on alcohol and tobacco products manufactured in Indian Territory. These items could be produced for sale tax-free within the territory, but manufacturers routinely sold them in adjacent states without paying the taxes. He also proved unwilling or unable to cope with the frauds of the whiskey ring, despite having received warnings of corruption including bribery of federal officials and failure to pay taxes. Delano took little or no action. The department did attempt to prevent the illegal manufacture and sale of whiskey in other areas. On January 31, 1870, an Internal Revenue raid in Georgia captured 18 illicit whiskey stills and their operators. The whiskey ring was finally stopped in 1875 during Grant's second term by Secretary of Treasury Benjamin Bristow. The ringleader, John McDonald, had received a political appointment as Superintending Inspector of Internal Revenue in St. Louis. He had been recommended to Delano by several prominent residents of Missouri, and in turn Delano had recommended him to Grant. McDonald was convicted of fraud and theft, and served 17 months in prison. In all, the investigation of the whiskey ring resulted in 110 convictions. Grant's private secretary, Orville E. Babcock, was implicated, but acquitted at trial after Grant provided written testimony on his behalf. Additionally, Delano was cleared of involvement in another scandal in which Babcock was implicated, the gold ring, which was triggered when two New York financiers attempted to corner the gold market on September 24, 1869. Daniel Butterfield, the Assistant Treasurer of the United States, and Grant's brother-in-law Abel Corbin were also implicated. Butterfield was forced to resign in October. Delano's reputation for personal honesty was not in question, which was an asset when Grant needed to nominate a new Secretary of the Interior in 1870.